Many clubs wouldn't even dare to do the same thing that Athletic Bilbao does. But there's one club in Belgium who's willing to take a chance, to try to be a successful club whilst only recruiting local players. This is the story of their new Lierse Kempenzonen. Athletic Bilbao is a well-known football club who are renowned for their Basque-only philosophy. It dictates that Athletic is only allowed to use players who are either born or have been brought up in the Basque country, a region in North Spain. Surprisingly, this policy has served them very well. They are Spain's third most successful club in terms of trophies won, only behind FC Barcelona and Real Madrid. And all three of those clubs are also the only clubs in Spain to have never been relegated from the top flight. This policy has given Athletic a very strong identity. You know, to replicate the success Athletic Bilbao has had is tough for any club, let alone a club that is restricting itself so much with their own policies and philosophy. However, being a football club, as we know, is much more than just being successful on the pitch. A football club is the representation of the city or area they reside in. Now, there's one club in Belgium who is dreaming of becoming the Athletic Bilbao of Belgium. Lierse Kempenzonen. They're one of two football clubs that replaced Lierse SK after they filed for bankruptcy in 2018. And the former Lierse SK was Belgium's biggest, smallest club, if that makes sense. They did not only win the Belgian Cup twice, they also lifted the league title 4 times, with the latest one being in 1997. However, they were most famous for their youth academy. Since the 1950s, they started scouting young players, and they've stuck to that strategy ever since. And throughout history, many of those players that Lierse scouted would also go on to represent the Belgian national team, such as Jan Keulemans, Karl Hoefkens and Bob Peters. In more recent years, we've also seen the former PSV and Everton striker Aruna Kone come through the academy, as well as Nottingham Forest new goalkeeper Mats Sels. But perhaps the most famous name to have ever been a part of Lierse SK's youth academy is Romelu Lukaku. Now, he spent 2 seasons at the club before he moved on to the youth academy of Anderlecht. However, all good stories come to an end, because just as many other different Belgian clubs, Lierse SK was doomed financially. They had a terrible ownership and eventually just had to file for bankruptcy. Now, some fans went on to support Liga Lierse, whilst other fans went on to support a newly founded club, Lierse Kempenzonen. Well, newly established, it was more like an amateur side that acquired the name of Lierse SK, the stadium and the logo. Now, Lierse Kempenzonen had to restart and rebuild in amateur football. And just after 2 seasons, in 2020, the club was promoted back to the 2nd division and thus back to professional football. And they have been playing here ever since. And like I said in the beginning, Lierse K wants to become the Athletic Bilbao of Belgium. However, there is a slight difference in the scale of this challenge. The Basque country is 20,947 square kilometers large. You know, the province that Lierse resides in is 2,876 square kilometers. So almost 10 times as small. However, if you just look at the population of both regions, they are not far off. The Basque country has a population of almost 2.2 million people, and the Antwerp province has one of almost 1.9 million. Now, one of the biggest challenges for Lierse is to compete with their rival clubs. You see, in the Basque country there are only 2 other big clubs, Real Sociedad and Deportivo Alavés. But financially, Athletic can compete with those clubs. And because Belgium is so small, most clubs are scouting all over the country. So Lierse does not only have competition from recruiting the biggest talents within their region from local clubs such as Royal Antwerp, Beerschot and KV Mechelen, but also of those of Anderlecht and Club Brugge. You know, clubs that have way more budget and are able to afford to pay players in their youth academy. Lierse is at this moment in time working with a very limited budget. When I interviewed the head of youth academy last season, they only had a budget of 1.6 million euros to run the entire club. And all of that budget is going into either the facilities or to the first team. And to put this into perspective, Lommel SK, another club from the 2nd division, spent 8.3 million euros on bringing in 4 players in the summer of 2023 alone. So currently all they can do is convince a player of their project, because they simply cannot afford to give him a semi-pro contract. And instead of focusing on the high performers, Lierse has got to focus on the high potentials. So these are the players that are not good enough to enter a top academy yet, but who potentially could become a 1st division player. Third challenge for Lierse is the growing trend that Belgian football clubs are spending more money than ever before on their youth academy, which obviously makes it harder and harder to scout talent without a budget. Now that's why Lierse is creating partnerships with local clubs around them. They will help develop their coaches with workshops, and they will also make sure that every single one of those partner clubs is playing the exact same tactic and the exact same system as Lierse's first team. And in this way the transition from the youth academy to the first team becomes a bit easier. It's a very ambitious project and you would almost call the club crazy to even try this. However, there is a romanticism about it. Now their head of youth development, Dirk Gijslings, was one of the architects between the famous Anderlecht youth academy, and he's also worked at AC Milan and FC Metz. So they've got the knowledge and experience in their club. And on top of that, Lierse is also the definition of a sleeping giant. In November 2022, 10,000 fans were in attendance at the stadium cheering the team on loud and proud when they played Anderlecht in a cup match. And there's many Belgian clubs that would be dreaming of an attendance of 10,000 fans. And Lierse is one of those clubs that is able to do that. So some part of me believes that they can pull this off. What do you think?